All right. Hello, everybody. So I went for a bit of a walk, kind of thought more about the problem, and I decided that I'm going to demonstrate two-dimensional arrays at some point, but maybe not for this stream. So for this stream, I actually wanted to share or switch gears and go with Java because this actually corresponds with my website, which I don't know if I can pull it up. I'll drop the link in. Let's see. Yep, it's on this one. So go ahead and drop the link in the comments. So this is where I have a written version of basically what's up here. Um, Actually, I think I have it on there. I have everything leading up to it, and then like just the basics of Java. So, and that's the home page. Then if you go to Java, let's go to it might be advanced Java. Hold on. Because this is basically an example of an object. So we have a constructor here. So a complex variable in Java. So I mean, a little more complex of a concept, but it's not too bad. So these are just like the complex variables. They can have variables that have variables. As you can see here, uh, it does take all of these and it initiates them based on inputs. And then you might also see code where you have constructors that look very similar to each other. Um, but might just handle different inputs. Like maybe this type of question doesn't have three wrong answers and one right answer, and maybe it has something else like a seasonal boolean or like in, or whatever. Any number of reasons that you might have different constructors. Um, but yeah, oh yeah, this is sort of a promotion for my open source computer science project, and this is some code totally free for people to, take, borrow, whatever, improve upon. I mean, if you want to do the projects, and I guess I should do kind of a project list. I can go ahead and what I wanted to do is show open source Java. Oh, let me finish explaining this. So this is a class file. I should start off from the very basics, and this is what Java looks like when you're writing it in the Eclipse editor. Eclipse is an open source or free IDE, which is great for Java, and I think you can also do other languages as well. I always see all these other plugins for like C, C++. I'm just guessing. I don't know for sure. Go and check it out. But this is a very handy tool to use as a software professional, computer scientist, developer, any of the above. So yeah. So basically, we have. I'll go ahead and walk you through the parts of the file. You have your file number or your line numbers. So kind of like how we did on Vim. And then you have your public class question. So this line is declaring the class, telling the compiler that this is everything in between this curly bracket and the corresponding. See how that lights up, or that you can have that rectangle, indicating that those are corresponding curly brackets. And real quick, the kind of style for Java is either this or it can also be this. So don't be surprised if you see some code that has it denoted that way. It's kind of, tomato, tomato, but it still performs the same. It functions the same. It'll compile the same. It doesn't matter. It's just like white space. And actually in Java, I should say one of the main differences from Python is how it doesn't matter with your spacing. You can have this tabbed out or you can have it flat, but it just looks atrocious and it's bad practice, to not have it all lined up within, self-contained blocks. So like this code block belongs to this constructor, you know, section of code, and then the curly brackets, regardless of which style you do, this should always line up with this. So just like how the scope changed in Python, if you were doing like um, functions or for loops, while loops, if statements, elif, else, all of those, you would still have it tabbed in. Well, this you would have it tabbed in just to be in good form. So same with that, and that actually might be too many tabs. That, that's going a little crazy. So I mean, even right there, mine wasn't as clean as it could have been. But yeah, just so that's good. Actually, wait, if I do tab from here, pops it all the way over there, but then I can still go back. Okay, so that's just weird. If I hit tab on the bottom one, anyways, this looks more correct. Oh wait, that's why. Sorry, this is all contained in a return statement, so I must have shortened that just to make it cleaner instead of going way out here. So this is actually all the same line. And that's the next thing I wanted to point out as a difference between Python and Java. You have your line ending with a semicolon. So that tells the compiler this is the end of the line, get ready for a new bit of code, new thought, new logic, new whatever. So um, yeah, and then we have the constructor part of it, and then we have a few helper methods. So in Java, you're mostly going to be making methods. There is a difference between methods and functions, and like I kind of confessed in one of my previous videos, I'm not 100% sure on what that is. I know that, so say this is an object, right? If we wanted to do test1 dot get ID, we could do that. So that would be, I think that's the discerning. Oh, and then also see you need your semicolon at the end, otherwise it yells at you. But that's when a function or a bit of code is called on an object. Now you could also do, um, well, see, even that is kind of misleading because this is being called on system without, this is just a whole mess. So it's kind of a bad example as far as calling, this is a method, the print line method, but it is being called on the system object, and the system object exists. I'm fairly certain, whatever you're doing when you're coding. So, like, it's an object, but just like you could call it on. Well, anyways, the other way would be just having a method without having an object attached to it with some, I don't know, can't think of one off the top of my head. But anyways, so you have a few methods, and we have this identifier of public. So the the importance of this would be public versus private and protected. So this is an accessing or accessibility kind of like framework. So declaring these all as public means they're accessible by other classes, other programs, just everything. So they're openly available. Whereas um, protected has a different restriction, and then private has a restriction where I believe it's only accessible within its own classes, within its own program, but not 100% on that. And I'd probably want to look that up, but to be sure. But that's just why we say public. This just just get in the habit of always saying public, and then the next step is having what you're going to return. So this is different from the class. The class you're just saying, oh, this is a class. You don't have to have a return thing. Um, and then you have a name. So, whereas with the method, and then you have your constructors versus your method. So this is kind of like a type of method, but it doesn't have a return thing because um, this is creating an object. So it's kind of like a method to create an object. But then with this one, you have your return type, your return variable, or your return variable type, then your name, and then you have a spot for parameters if you need. Oh, and another difference between Python and Java, you need to label your parameters what variable type they are. So these are strings, and then you have an int at the very end. And so if you look at let's see, where would be a good place to show that? Because the next two methods actually work with the data that's involved in that object that was created. So at the time of creation, though, you have an ID, and then you have four strings, with one being a correct answer and three being the incorrect answer. So, this is just like, what's my favorite food or something. I don't remember the first one, tacos, whatever. These are basically four answers being fed into it. And you don't need to declare what type of variable they are here because we're using the double quotes. And then for here, it's just a number. So what we could also do is we could declare a different variable, which something else with Java, you do like int um, bar one, I don't know. Oh, and also bar one. Java is camel case versus snake case. So in Python, all the programs I've been doing up until now, I've had underscores and everything's been lowercase. Here we start playing with uppercase letters. So see in system, it's very important that you capitalize system, dot out, dot print line. Um, then yeah, so also a source of bugs. I've done this a lot. So if you accidentally have like something capitalized, then equals 9, and then whoops, that. And if you did system out print line, and this is actually where Java is, oops, bar one. This is actually one instance where Java is a little, see, right there. It has a capital R versus my lowercase r. So, all right, let's change that back. Something that's not ridiculous. There we go, that. And then you can actually print ints. You don't have to cast them as strings. I'm pretty sure. Let's go ahead and try it out. So, save, run it. I think that's for another class. I see I have a red X there, but why is it not? Okay, now it looks like it's waking up. Let's see. Should show test ID that. Well, let's make sure that it was actually working. Did I change anything else? I don't think so. So save. Oh, there it is. I was just impatient. Sorry. Yeah, that might have been a little loud. Kind of yelled at the mic. Sorry. But here we go. So correct answer is taco. The wrong answers 1 through 3 are pizza, gyro, however you pronounce it, and then noodles. And the test ID is 42. So like I said, oh, and this is actually really cool because this is using the getter, which is a type of method, just a kind of common category. There's getters and setters. And this getter just returns whatever this being the object that it's being called upon, which is test one. This is this implicit, this tongue twister. Anyways, so this get ID actually returns an integer, and we're printing it in concatenation with a string. All right, and so that might not seem too big if you're not a big Python programmer, but if you've been doing a lot of Python and you have to cast every int to string or every list to string, or you have to accommodate for this. Here you have this where it's just like, yeah, print it out. What type is it? Nah, it doesn't matter. We don't care. Let's just go ahead and try it. So, which we can see it actually works. It functions here. We get 42. So Douglas Adams fans. But yeah, so that is question number 42. And this is actually just part of the code for my big hand raised project that I'm working on. I'm doing it in Java mostly. Um, I don't even care what it is in the end. Java, Python, might be a little mix of both, but we can see how that works. But basically, I'm sharing it because, again, anyone can take this code, borrow it, improve upon it, do a similar hand raise project, because that's one of the really cool things about the technical industry is this is just a side project for me. I'm just doing this because it serves many purposes. I mean, it helps me with my coding abilities. If there's anything I want to experiment with, I can test it out on this project and incorporate it. So there is that like businessy side, but then also it's a chance to kind of give back to the community too. Like, Handraise being a open source or free project for helping out, grade school kids. Like just providing a website that they can go where they're not going to be judged. They can look up answers, they can practice questions, and like I was talking with Metant earlier. I don't know if that's French or I'll have to ask him, but um, he was thinking about making a website. And he's a teacher at high school, I think he said. Let's see. Anyways, another like-minded person, wanting to share this stuff online so kids have access to it because it's a lot easier. I mean, a lot of times, if a kid's struggling in school, all if they had something like this that was easy, one place, and then you can kind of branch out from there if you want. But like, you just gotta not discourage them from trying to figure it out. So anyways, that's my spiel on that. So this is the main part I have of this. I also have this, which is somewhat borrowed from my bootcamp. This was similar to an example, but this is in the Java version. So basically, it's an example of control flow, which is brilliant. I love a certain aspect of this part of the algorithm where you're doing conditional checks. However, you're not doing both ranges. So you're checking to see if a value, so the score, the input, exists in a range. Now, the way we're doing this is anything above greater than or equal to 90, including 1000, like 142, whatever, a billion, it'll still return A. So therefore, you're also, or sorry, by doing that, you're taking care of one of the corner cases of a ridiculously high number. So, even if it was a mistyping, an and accidental or error, whatever, it'll still return A, so it won't crash the computer. It'll actually know what to do. And then the next one, this is where it gets really clean. So, and another difference between Java and Python, instead of elif, it's else if, and you have to have parentheses for your condition. Then it doesn't matter. You can have one space. I think you can have like 50 tabs. Well, yeah, I know you can because they also do this, which I don't really agree with or like. They do that. So spacing isn't as important in Java, except when it is. So, no, just kidding. I don't think it really is a lot, but um, curly brackets and semicolons take over as far as syntax enforcers. So, um, sim. This one, I think you actually in Java you actually do have to use single quotes for single characters. I think you can get away with using double quotes for a single character. It's just considered bad practice. Um, because it's just for the longest time it was just known that single quotes meant for a single character, and double quotes has or more. Like you've got one and then or more as the different conditions. So, anyways, so here you have your conditional. What you could do is say if score is greater than or equal to 80 and score, because you got to same thing with Python, you got to mention it again. In fact, go and type it out. And whoops, actually, you can't do that. You gotta do that. And maybe the keyword and work too. Score is less than equal to 90. Or, no, just less than, because it's equal to brings and that. So, looks okay. It's not yelling at me. Let me actually see. Okay, so you can't say and. That's a difference. Python, you can do things like that. A lot of times you can say and, in, not in, using keywords. Where here, you have to use double ampersands to link two conditions together. But that is an and. So as far as that logic goes, it's not an or, it has to be both conditions satisfied. However, since well, anything greater than or equal to 90, so the upper range of this, is already chopped off by this, or handled with, dealt with, accounted for, however you want to say it. So it's irrelevant here. Like we could do this. There's no harm in it. It's just an unnecessary check. Okay, I guess there is a little harm if you're talking about optimization for large inputs. Now say you have, well, you're calling this method multiple times for, several million scores. That extra check every single time, especially if you get into the lower scores, if you start hitting, less than 70 or less than 60, and you have to go through all the cases, that's, an extra check for every single category that you have. So you've got A, B, C, D. Also, that I find funny. I'm actually going to change that. D. I don't know why it was lowercase. That just breaks. Well, whatever. Um, anyways, that's how many times adding this extra check would add a little bit of extra computational requirements or overhead. So this is why I love this example though, is because you can do it this way. It's much cleaner. It just cuts it off, and it is, it's A for everything 90 and above, B for everything 80 to 89.999, all of that. Then same with C and D, and then everything else that's less than or equal to, or well, less than 60, not equal to, but everything up until is just considered an F. Wait, is that right? A98. So that would be like 59. Okay, sorry, it just seems a little backwards, but yeah, and so that is a example of control flow, an example. Um, then here we have test cases testing all of them. So let's go ahead and save that. Let's make sure there's a D in there. Is that? Oh yeah, I actually did account for all the different conditions, 90, 80, 70. Then let's just wait, let it go. So we have A, B, C, D, F, A, F. So those are the two corner cases I was talking about. Also, using this else condition for, all right, you know what, we've already checked ridiculously high. We've checked for each of these other situations closer to where we're at. And now we want to check everything else. I mean, doesn't matter how negative you go. In fact, we can, I mean, why not go for the gusto? We'll do negative 1 million. Oops, not right there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. See, so now and save. So that's the thing with Eclipse. So if you're using Eclipse, it's really user friendly. It's really cool. As you can see, we have a terminal here. It's what you call an IDE. I have several files open. These are all class files. They're all .java files. But you don't need to worry about all that because it sets up your workspace and saves all your files to it. So I've got open source computer science source. So this is my open source OSCS project. Then I have, where's everything else? Oh, everything's in the default package. I think that might be why part of why I have errors. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. But it's not limiting us. So, oh yeah, sorry. Without any further to do, there. Proceed. Now we have two Fs. See? And it didn't even take that much longer. Like the other stuff was more due to this error that I have. It said data structures. This is where I'm just talking about arrays. So, which maybe we should go ahead and go through all this. Let's see. Well, how we. Uh, okay. Probably do about, I mean, not quite an hour, but we've only been doing it for 20 minutes. So that's cool. And already, I feel like we got questioned pretty well. Oh wait, no, we haven't completely finished. So I was talking about these being helper methods. So these are things that we can call, and I kind of went briefly into get ID being a getter. So you have getters and setters, which are types of methods. I could do a set ID. In fact, why not? Let's go ahead and add that functionality. That's a good idea. Usually when you see a getter, there's an accompanying setter, but so we'll do set, and this actually demonstrates the void concept. So we don't actually need anything to return. We just need to make sure that, um, in fact, as I say that, we'll take that out, and this equals new num. There we go. So there's an example of camel case. That's the input parameter. And we'll do qs is new num. There we go. And I don't know why. Oh, because we got to declare what it is. Int. There we go. So that took care of that error. And now let's actually see. So we have it initiated as 42. In fact, let's go ahead and save this and just run it without calling this new method that we just did, just so we can kind of, revisit what was going on here. So we have a question with 3 incorrect answers or wrong answers, and we have 1 correct answer. So, and then we also have the ID. Now, the method that we just coded, set ID, doesn't return anything. It's a void. It's also public, so it's accessible, all that good stuff. Looks almost identical except without the return, and we're setting something to this. So now we do test one dot set ID Um, 777. Okay, so now what we want to do so we can actually tell if this did anything, we can copy this print statement and then, oh, whoops, you got to make sure that you do it on the other side of that. In fact, let's actually do it at the end, the very end. So we'll see similar output, except we'll have an additional line showing the change. Hopefully, if we did everything correctly, it'll show the new set ID of lucky number sevens. There you go. You got 777, and that is now the ID for this question object. And this question object lives as long as this program is running. So, I mean, you would have to do like a an almost infinite loop that the user would be able to break out of to be running this program for a while. Or you could have your website interact with this, call the functions or call the methods, create the objects, store the objects in either databases or files. You know, there's a lot of options that you can do. So, and again, that's why like, you know, this is, you know, take it, use it, make it better. And yeah, but that is just one of the many things you can do. And also the concept of this is useful for a lot of languages. Like Python is really easy, but a lot of it does only pertain to it. Like there's a lot of special things you need to know for Java, but then when you're learning C++, a lot of the same stuff transfers over. So, um, anyways, yeah, so we've got that, and control flow is the really handy that, and we tested extreme corner cases, and that's what that 9,000 was. Data structures. See, so in Python you have lists. Now with Java you have or well, you have arrays, you have array lists, you have linked lists, you have, oh gosh, you have a bunch of stuff. But as far as data structures go, these are the very basic ones. This is just about arrays. You also have binary trees, binary search trees. You have graphs. Um, graphs are probably the most popular ones. That's what Facebook is based off of. So you've got your nodes with all the connections, and yeah, it gets really intricate. But arrays are the most basic kind of like data structure. That's the building block of a lot of programming. You'll use these in and out for a while, and then also array lists. If you have the I guess the space, like the resources to use, then array lists are really good. They're kind of morphing. They're growing. Like you don't have to keep changing their sizes. Whereas with arrays, you have size right from the get-go. So you have to say what size it is, and then then you populate it. You still use the same zero-based indices as Python. That's just a general thing with computers. Um, but yeah, let's see. So let's see. Look at what's kind of going on here. Just making sure. I believe I want to say this is a. So this creates an array. But the fact that it has a return thing, so look, just going back to question, a constructor looks like this. Public, question, no. Public, name, that's it. There's no return type, there's no, oh, and static, static is also kind of like a irrelevant word as far as this situation. It refers to um, the mutability, I think, of, and I'm not 100% on that. It's been a while, but yeah, there's static and then there's non-static variables, methods, classes, I think. I don't know. But that would be something for you to look up on your own time. But for this, I just don't think this is a constructor because you're explicitly saying it returns an int array. So I think this is just a method that creates an int array. So not a legitimate constructor, but a constructor. So, in fact, let's see. Int array. Do we use it? There we go. Test, printout test, printout. Well, let's actually go ahead and see what this is doing real quick because I don't remember. It's been a while since I've worked with these, but yeah, this is the more complete section of my website. It's the Java. So, all right. All right, so these print lines are this while loop, these first array at index. Oh wait, no, it's print array. Is it? Oh, hold on. Call print array here. Array at index something is 0 through 4. So that, oh, another thing to point out, for loops are much different in Java than they are in Python. This is a traditional for loop, unless you want to be weird and do this thing. Just kidding, not really. Anyways, you have three parts of the for loop. Yeah, let's get into it because the for loop is really important to know. So here, they're separated by the semicolon, first of all. So your three parts, your first part is initiate your iterator, or your iterable. So this is the I, also a lot of times considered index, but it is just traditional for Java for loops to start with I. If you're going to do a nested one, then go to J, and so on. Like you can keep going down the alphabet that way, or some other schema, but usually you do I for loops. Okay. Then you do equals, just a single, to set it to 0. So this is actually a count or an index variable. This will increment if you do this. If you do I minus minus, I believe it decrements. I don't think you ever really want to do that because in Java, it's pretty much standard that for loops, like whereas while loops, I would say I usually tend to go backwards. I say I try to make things shrink until they hit a condition. And I'm sure you could. Like I'm sure if we did, oh, let's try it. But we would want to start it so we don't do an infinite loop because we're also doing while. Oh, see, we can't even do that. We would have to change the middle condition too. So the middle one is the condition to check every time. Basically, the Boolean to break out of the loop is another way to think about it. So while I is less than array.length, um, it's going to keep going. It's going to keep looping through and do it again, do it again, do it again, more iterations. And then we have what changes the index is I minus minus. That decrements, which is another thing you can't do in Python. You have to do minus equals. So, Java lets you do minus minus for decremation or subtracting 1. So now, wherever you start out at, so like 10, and then, already, I mean, I can see problems with this, but we're starting at 10. We're actually using I as an index for, so we're passing this an array. So and we're taking array.length, and now we're trying to call on whatever position this is. So by reversing this, it wouldn't really work well for this example. We're just gonna, well, I'm curious as to, I got an idea. First things first, let's go ahead and leave it alone. And then what we'll do, also it's / for comments in Java. Now, no harm, no foul. We can just play around and do whatever we want. So we'll do 10 I greater than 0. I think I usually like to leave space. Yeah, that's how. Space after the semicolon. Kind of like words, but don't do a space before the semicolon. I don't know. Or sometimes I do. It's all your personal preference. But then I minus minus. There we go. So now, and we also need to do another condition. This, I would actually recommend commenting this out. We could reuse it. Remember, keep it. So it's lined up, it's in the for loop. But again, like the spacing doesn't matter except for um, uh, personal preferences and readability. Plus I think this will be okay. Actually, we'll just, well, this makes more sense. So index, there you go. If I I did it correctly, and if it does decrement like this. Interesting. So we actually were able to find something out. Oh, never mind. I just had to scroll up. Never mind. I was like, huh. It started at 8. Weird. Okay, so it starts at 10, then it decrements. So this is okay to do. It just looks weird. Then you do 10, 9, all the way down to 1. Then once it's equal to 0, it breaks out and no longer cares. It is out. So, okay, cool. Also, another thing to point out, this gibberish, I didn't really address this yet. The I at, that looks like a hexadecimal number. Pretty sure it is. So, hold on one second. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up because it is, yeah, about where I wanted to be at. Uh, but before I go, this is a memory address location. So this is like a street sign or a PO box, something like that for data to be stored. So what we're doing is we're doing that in a print line, we're doing that, and then we're doing that. I believe is how that's going. Okay, don't forget the semicolon, save it. Then you can hit this button so that compiles it and runs it here. Okay, so yeah, that's what, if I were to do here, there as well. Um, okay, so yep, it goes right there. That prints out so what's returned by this is that array. So int array, you remember from up here, it returns the integer array. Um, so that prints it, but the thing with Java, and I believe computer or C++ as well. Yeah, C++ has by reference pointers, all that good stuff. It gets really complex. Java has memory address locations and string methods or toString methods. So that's what I was going to do. I was going to actually make static string array toString, but then actually, to be honest, I don't know how I'd go about that. I want to say there might be uh, toString. Yeah, there's a toString. Let's try it. Can I not? Okay, it's getting a little cluttered, so say doesn't look like it did anything because it printed. Huh. Anyways, that's a pretty good start to Java. There's a lot more. Let me go ahead and wait. I believe I dropped the yeah, I dropped the website link at the very beginning of this. Oh, hey, what's up, Chad Master? Actually, I was just about to sign off and go eat some dinner, but I was walking through my open source computer science Java stuff. So this link that I posted, I think it just let's see. There we go. It's posted again. So that's my website that I made. Um, that it it's basically free education for computer science programming. I talk a little bit about security, not a whole lot. I, I'm gonna try to get into like networking stuff like that as I kind of learn it. But for now, it's Java, Python. I've been doing a bunch of Python videos. Um, yeah, thanks for the follow, man. But yeah, this was just a Java one. Actually, let me go back. this was the main focus of the video. So this is a question class, and I kind of explained what a class is and some Java basics. But this is what I'm using for my other project, Hand Raise, where I want to make, and actually one of my other followers was talking about making a website for kids to kind of just come check out if they're struggling with something. He was talking about posting his content. He's a teacher um, for high school, I believe. And yeah, so this is just some work that I've been doing and just kind of putting it out there. So like if anybody else wants to do these types of projects too, like or has similar interests, here's some code to borrow or improve or whatever. I'm not too worried about it, especially because this isn't really a money making idea. This is a philanthropist idea for like kids and education. So a little more valuable, but yeah, and free, open source. Everything I'm doing is open source. That link that I just put, that's just public. Or, I used to tutor kids in college at CSU, so and I had a lot of fun doing it, kind of like near my end years. But yeah, so this is like a way that anybody that's interested in computer science or technology can kind of come and check it out. And I still have a lot to post, but yeah, we've got that. We've got um, hand raised, which is what I'm calling this project. And then we kind of went through a couple other examples. We did like this example of control flow. Um, some basics about Eclipse. This is the IDE that I generally use for Java. There's a lot of different options. Oh, and we can look at the this one. So we didn't do this already. This is or actually, yeah, I do gotta run, but I will get into this probably next time. Maybe I can even write more, but basically this is on the website. So, or a copy of this. Everything that's on here is actually reflected on the website. So I was able to post it in code form so you can just copy and paste it into your own Eclipse. But yeah, this is all documented. So, and this is a really fun encryption decryption algorithm using a massive case statement versus the dictionaries that I've been teaching or talking about in Python. Yeah, and then you have a couple. You got from int, so this could be another dictionary. So yeah, I've been getting really into Python. I've got like 360 challenges on Code Wars that I want to talk about, like just go through. And already my next episode with that, I have to figure out two-dimensional arrays because at the end of the last one, I was kind of struggling with that. So, but anyways, I'm gonna get off of here. Thanks again for the follow. I'll probably be on later tonight to kind of keep going over this. I might try to get some more examples. I mean, I have some more I can go through for sure, and I probably should, but maybe I can even think of some more stuff like translate some of the cooler stuff from Python. I don't know. See, but anyways, I'll see you guys around on the next one. All right, thanks for stopping by.